The Chicago Sky have a new general manager, Jeff Pagliocca. He has graciously agreed to join us. We are going to be talking all things Chicago Sky. A Wednesday edition of Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal. I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. We keep showing up for you 6 days a week, and you keep showing up for us. Over 160,000 of you tuned in to October shows alone. Again, it is not just me, of course. It is the incredible team over at The Next, at thenexthoops.com, where we had more than 1.3 million readers in the month of October alone. Over 100 reported pieces on women's basketball every month. Make sure you are reading us. Make sure you subscribe. $9 a month, $72 a year. Support the work of people like Monique Newton, our dedicated Chicago Sky beat reporter. And she's had a lot to write about lately, I have to say. There's been a fascinating moment in time for the Chicago Sky. Jeff Pagliocca has been part of that growth, of that development, taking on the general manager role. Jeff, thank you for joining us. I guess the place I would love to start is take me through how this moment of change feels like for you to go from, what is a player development role to go to a managerial role that had to involve a fair amount of kind of recalibrating your thinking about the team.
Yeah, it was a lot of thought, but I'm very, very grateful, for the opportunity to be the general manager, surrounded by unbelievable front office people and ownership. And I've been now, this will be the 4th year with the organization, and it was just the next natural step for me in my career was accepting a role like this.
From the perspective of this team, and in the state of the Sky is a little hard to pin down, right? You can look at a team where you say, all right, first round of the playoffs and an opportunity to potentially go further. A team that is, we're talking a couple years removed from a championship. There is youth on this team. Of course, there is Kahleah Copper signed to a long-term extension. Where do you see the Chicago Sky on the success cycle as you go into this 2024 offseason?
Well, we have some very good players under contract. We were able to, retain Kahleah, before free agency. So obviously that was a priority. We have just an incredible core, to build off of. So, we're looking forward to collectively taking a look at, free agents that are out there and keep our vision moving forwards.
When you think about that vision, when you kind of lay out the basics of it, and obviously Teresa Weatherspoon as head coach, there's a lot of collaboration. I heard, you had a press conference with the media at large talking about, figuring out who's the final say on player decisions, and Adam Fox gets involved there as well. But what are kind of the overriding basics of your philosophy when you think about what you want to build a team?
Yeah, we just want players that are competitive and want to be coached hard. And, we have a lot of those players here already. And it's going to be an energized new chapter with Teresa coaching the team. She brings so much, obviously as a Hall of Fame player and lots of coaching experience, player development background. But, from my end, we have so much to work with and be excited about.
You are a player development guru. I don't think that's overstating it in terms of the work in which you have done through the years. I guess, how exciting is it? Because so much of the time as a player development person, you are in charge of figuring out how to take the players that you have and making the best of them. are there particular skills that you find are most able to be maximized at the WNBA level? And I wonder, what are those kind of skills that you look for, whether it's in free agency or, as you scout what's going to be a very talent-rich 2024 draft?
Yeah, look, even previously for me over the years, you're always looking for players that have good instincts and play the right way.
Right.
So as far as currently and, in free agency, you want players that are team first players that make winning plays. Once they get here, we'll keep helping them evolve as players within our player development structure. But you're looking for players that really want to get coached hard and fit in, with a coach that's going to be very demanding.
You are obviously interested in the data side of basketball. You're not a stranger to the league, so you've seen what I've seen as we've gone through these past few years. How much more of a focus is there, do you think, around the league on the data side of things than there was even a few years ago? And I guess the other part of that is, how much does that change the challenge, as you're not the only one who's sort of diving into those numbers to figure out which players you want to be able to acquire?
Yeah, I think analytics has to play a pivotal piece and taking a look at players and their value and how they're evolving from season to season or from game to game. I know I used it regularly whether putting scouts together for NBA or WNBA players, or taking a look from week to week, or even when you're building off-season plans. You want to look at numbers and identify places on the floor where they need to improve or where they like catching the ball, and you kind of grow from there and build out of those things. So I think every single team, is putting a much more of a premium on the analytics and data side, and I think without it, you're a step behind.
You have had the opportunity to do it through these past few years. How much do you feel like you're getting better information than even a few years ago? And again, to me, I keep going back to thinking from the media side of things, we're not necessarily getting all the same things public facing that the data that is available in the W. But I know internally the WNBA has lacked that, even just basics like having that data available in various NBA arenas, but not WNBA arenas.
Right. And I think, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No,
please.
Standardizing that stuff, I think, is trying to be a priority. And there are a lot of gyms with that software and technology in them. And you need to have it. You need to have it immediately. And, whether it's during games or, by halftime, or a lot of players, they want to see, their areas, immediately, where there was success or where there wasn't, so they can dive into whether it's the mental side, the film side, or getting back on a court that night or in the morning, to address it. So that stuff will continue to evolve. And, the software that, is usable in the WNBA, gives us a lot of good options.
Yeah, no question. It's improving. It's getting better. It's fascinating to see. I do wonder also just how comparatively that feels to, your work at Evolution Athletics. And for listeners who are not aware, Jeff has been in this space for a long time. And on the training side of things, Evolution Athletics came through at Deerfield, an opportunity to train players, men and women, at every level along the way. Does it feel like you're getting almost like a fancy new sports car to be able to kind of drive this stuff and be able to see the results now at the highest level, at the professional women's basketball level?
Yeah, I'm like I said, and I'll keep reiterating it, that I'm just very grateful for the opportunity and the people that put me in place and saw the value in the skill set that I'm bringing to this role. But we're gonna continue to use the same skills that got me into this role, and we're gonna continue to identify, develop and cultivate, basketball players and make sure that they're becoming integral pieces of the Chicago Sky.
Well, we're going to get into a little more about some of those pieces, who's back, who's maybe not back, and figuring out how that puzzle comes together in segment 2. But first, Very excited to talk to you guys about Prize Picks, one of our sponsors for today. And Prize Picks, it's so interesting, right? It's the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because it's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling over thousands of other players, there are pros, there are people who do this all the time. You pick either more or less than 2 to 6 player stat projections, and then you watch the winnings roll in. Now, basketball is a prize pick sport. Football is a prize pick sport. But there's this really interesting new way you can do it, which is combo projections. There's something called a specials league, and it gets you the opportunity. Let's say you want to bet on LeBron James and Travis Kelce in the same day, the same opportunity. You can do it using the specials league. I suggest you go over to prizepicks.com/lockedonnba and use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. The only way you can really do it is by trying it. Again, prizepicks.com/LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. So we're back with Jeff Pagliocca. And to me, what's so interesting about this roster heading into 2024 is you have a number of key players in place. So let's just run it down so our listeners have a sense of it. You have Kahleah Copper. She's signed through 2025. Marina Mabrey, who was a major acquisition last offseason, signed through 2025. Isabel Harrison at 2024 at $160K. Elizabeth Williams, who was a budget acquisition. You think about what she brought to the table and what she did for you guys on the heels of coming over. I mean, at $135,000, that's a deal that looked great in 2023. I think is likely to look even better in 2024. There are some UFAs. Obviously, we're talking about Courtney Williams. We're talking about Alana Smith, who had such a breakthrough for you guys this year. Before we get into some of those decisions, can you just take me through what you saw out of Alana Smith? What allowed her to have the type of breakthrough she did for you this past year?
Yeah, I think, she had a great season. She had an opportunity for us at the 4. She plays hard, shot the ball well, was a good teammate. So she just continued to grow throughout the season. But, real toughness there.
It's a skill set that would presumably be valuable on the free agent market. Do you think that you've created a place there that allows for players to want to return? To me, it was eye-opening, Kahleah Copper signing before free agency even comes, to be basically say, I want to build here. And she's been very vocal in support of you. How important do you feel like that is when it comes to playing a part in building a WNBA team, as opposed to, even X's and O's and trying to find the right skill set?
Yeah, look, I'm appreciative to hear that, we want people, to want to wear this jersey. So, the fact that we were able to retain Ka and she's so excited to be here, to build here, that's going to attract some other players who probably feel the same way, because she's such a special talent. These are the types of winning attitudes that we want.
What did you see from Kahleah Copper this year? She was being asked to do more than she's ever done in her career. Translating more volume to the same level of efficiency is always a challenge for any player. How much did you see her doing it? And is there sort of a next step for her as you think about what you want from her in 2024?
Yeah, look, she put us on her back a decent amount of the time. Her game, started to evolve a little bit more than years past. She was asked to do a little bit more. There was some playmaking that we replaced, and we had some great pieces around her, but she still was asked to score some more points, to make some more plays, to continue to defend at a high level. She shot the ball extremely well from the 3-point line, put a ton of time into that. Just making sure that she was growing. So she's still continuing to be a complete player that's tough to guard. The better you shoot the ball, the more other things open up for yourself and your teammates. So we put a priority on her 3-point shooting and her range increasing, and she proved that she could do it. So, she's a worker. She's in the gym. She puts a lot of pressure on herself to be successful and to win games. So those are the type of people we like spending time with.
Feels to me like in a lot of ways you have just described Marina Mabrey across the board, whether you're talking about the fact that she played obviously the most games she's ever played, that's a product of the schedule, but she was also healthy. She was also out there. The fact that she was also being asked to shoot the ball more than she has throughout her career, but the efficiency stayed right. In fact, got better. She shot 39% from three this past year. And also somebody who was able to deliver you some defensive performances that for whatever reason seem to get lost in the shuffle. And when people talk about her skill set, even dating back to Notre Dame years, people didn't necessarily talk about the ways in which she brings that defensive intensity as well. Is there another level for Marina Mabrey to be able to reach as you think about her in 2024 as well?
Yeah, Marina hasn't hit her ceiling yet as a player, really at any level. She's ultra competitive. Another player that lives in the gym, wants feedback, wants to improve, shot the ball very, very well, extended range, and defensively, she's in passing lane. She's got good hands. She's got good instincts. I know she wants to continue to evolve as a defender, and she loves basketball. This is someone who really, really loves it and cares about her improvement.
She is a Jersey product. We are always quick to point that out when we get the opportunity. But again, there is that mentality that you are looking for that she seems to epitomize, that Kahleah, who went to Rutgers, seems to epitomize as well. Do you feel as if that is sort of the overarching thought process of pulling your team together? Or do you see some particular skills that you are eager to add to what this mix was in 2023 as you head into the free agent market?
Yeah, these are very tough women. They pride themselves on their toughness and their grit, the hustle plays, the no surrender type of behavior out there. And we want players like that. We want skilled players, we want IQ players, but we want to really rely on our toughness. So when we can get players, with their capabilities that are also that tough, then we're thrilled.
From an analytics perspective, you guys were about middle of the pack in, basically all the four factors, whether we're looking at overall offensive or defensive efficiency or everything from the way you shared the ball to the way you rebounded the ball. Are there particular areas that you believe are necessary to win in the WNBA, or do you think there's some different ways of getting there ultimately in a variety of factors? I'm thinking the Washington Mystics back in 2019 did it primarily with their offense and record-setting offense, but we're middle of the pack defensively. We've seen some teams do it on the defensive end first, notably a team right there in Chicago. I'm just wondering where your points of emphasis are likely to be there.
Yeah, we want to guard. Coach Weatherspoon is going to demand that we defend at a high and ferocious level. So that's going to be paramount at all times. We want to out tough people. We want them to feel us. Look, we could have improved a lot of different ways last year. We could have rebounded the ball better. We could have guarded a lot better at times. A lot of those are choices you can control, so I think that just continue to put a premium on effort and just wanting to do certain things and following the lead of our coach, I think we're going to be okay.
Speaking of the defensive end of things, I know that was a point of emphasis for Dana Evans, who took a big step forward in a variety of ways for you guys. What is the next step for Dana to take? And take me through kind of what those conversations were with her and you as she prepared to head overseas.
Yeah, Dana was incredible over the last season. She is like no other defensively. She can get into the ball. She could turn games around with her energy, and it's really, really hard to do in that situation. People, regularly had a tough time getting the ball over half court against her. She loves to shoot the ball. She likes to make big plays. We want her playmaking to continue to evolve. As a smaller guard, those are things that are necessary. But she does things that 6'5" players can't do. So her toughness and her heart are irreplaceable at times, and she can change the outcome of a game. She can change the flow, and there's players like that are incredible to have around.
And going to Wintrust Arena to see Dana Evans alone is a trip worth taking.
Absolutely.
Been told people. Well, we're going to be back talking a little bit about some extra free agents who were on your team and some who might be on your team right after this. But first, I want to talk to you guys about FanDuel. And Jeff, I'm just going to be honest. There is a deal being offered at FanDuel right now that probably shouldn't reflect either the team in your hometown or the teams in my home here in New Jersey, which is to say that FanDuel has an offer right now. If you bet any winning $5 money line bet, you can get $150 in bonus bets at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. But doing that for the Chicago Bears, let's be honest, is probably not a great idea right now, in the same way that doing that for the New York Giants, the team I grew up with, the team that I root for, but the team that unfortunately lost their starting quarterback for the season and is 2-7 and is currently having the worst DVOA, thank you, Pro Football Focus, in New York Giants history, might not be the way to do it. I have looked into it, though, and it turns out there are other NFL teams, and so you can bet on them instead. $150 if your team wins. It's not just, of course, money line over at FanDuel. They have spreads, player props, over, under, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. Again, that's FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Tough times in the NFL for teams around our parts of the woods. But the Chicago Sky, of course, heading into a free agency period before we get to the draft even, and what is a fascinating and incredible draft coming up, although who's going to be in it, we still don't know 100% or anywhere close to it. Yeah. But the free agency first, and even just like from that perspective, do you prefer to have free agency first? Do you wish you could have the draft first and have the schedule recalibrated in that way?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think that free agency first could make a lot of sense. There's so many talented players, and it's even watching the game. Last night, you see how talented these girls are, and they're getting better and better at a young age. So it's college basketball is in a wonderful place.
It really, really is. So free agency that we're looking at, Courtney Williams obviously is probably the biggest name in terms of the key contributors last year going into free agency. What are those conversations like? And, how do you see her fitting into what you're trying to build in 2024?
Yeah, we can't get into too much of those conversations. We're, in the beginning stages of taking a look at what might make the most sense for us. But heck of a player and had an unbelievably good season for us.
No doubt about it. I guess I want to speak more generally because you're right. Obviously, you're right at the start of this. But, people talk about Skylar Diggins-Smith, obviously, as somebody who's going to be available. You could see a potential fit there. Do you see it as you need another heavy lifter in terms of the offensive load? Is that a need out of free agency, out of the draft, wherever you end up getting it? Is that a need for this team?
Yeah, Skylar, very talented player. There's always a need for a difference maker, a needle mover, so whoever, ends up being a fit for us. Yeah. You're looking for players that can make a difference on the court, and that can be a fit with who's here already.
All makes sense to me. And just from a personal perspective, just having this job, having this opportunity, like what's been the most joyful part of that for you as you've begun this process?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It's a dream occupation. I was able to build a business and become part of an organization years ago that, I admired and I was proud to be part of. So just to accept this role and work with, so many amazing women and an ownership that's prideful for Chicago City. And we've won a championship and we're not that far removed. So just to be part of something where everyone cares for sustainable success is it's joyful in itself to be able to make a small impact.
Well, very eager to see where you go from here, Jeff. Appreciate your time. To our listeners, thank you always for making us a part of your day. The great Vic Schaefer from Texas will be with us tomorrow talking about Longhorns women's basketball. Until then, I am Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful Wednesday.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.